Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to our live stream this afternoon. So we have released the third winter 2019-2020 update this morning, and it seems to have gone down quite well. Hope you all enjoyed it. So let me know if you can hear me. Hopefully, or you can hear me right now. And we'll have a bit of a chat about this third winter update. So you see, we've already got some people in with us. We've got Twisted Weather saying hi. So hi, Twisted Weather. I hope you're having a nice afternoon. Also got Sharky with us. So hi, Sharky. Hope you're having a lovely afternoon. We've got Nath Richo with us as well. So hi, Nath. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. Brent Tops is with us, so hi Brent, and thanks for tuning in and listening to our live stream. It's only the third live stream that we've done on a Sunday afternoon associated with these winter updates. We already seem to be getting a little bit of a following. I wasn't sure when I said that we would do live streams to go with the winter updates. So I wasn't sure whether there'd be all that much interest in it, really. Generally, when we've done live streams in the past, we tend to stick to things like when there's going to be snow events, something like that. So been really surprised and blown away actually at the support and at the interest for these live streams. So thank you all so much for tuning in on your Sunday afternoon, especially on such a nice day as this. At least a nice day down in the south, of course. It's not as good as it is in the south further north. Across northern England, I think it's a pretty grim afternoon, and very much a divide with the temperature as well this afternoon, with southern England really warm and northern parts of the country really quite cold. So wherever you are, whatever the weather is doing this afternoon, then thanks so much for tuning in. Let's see if you more of you who are with us. So I'll be taking some questions, by the way. So if you want to ask any questions about the third winter 2019-2020 update, then just leave your question. And I'll answer as many as I can. Of course, I might not be able to see everybody's questions, but I will answer as many as I can. You can super chat, and that means that your question will stand out, your comment / question will stand out, and then I'll definitely see it. But otherwise, I've just got to go through and answer as many as I can. So do a few more. Streak777 is with us saying hi Gav, hi Streak, thanks so much for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. We've got Shira with us, so hi Shira, thanks for tuning in on your Sunday afternoon to our live stream. We've got Kenzie Ellis with us as well, so hi Kenzie, thanks for tuning in, and also we've got Alpha SB with us. So, hi, Alpha SB. Thanks so much for tuning in. Streak is telling us about having a barbecue. So, well, I hope you're enjoying your barbecue. Certainly, it's barbecue weather down in the south. It's probably a little bit cold for it, though, further north. And Alpha SB also confirming that that you all can hear me okay. So, no microphone problems this week, thankfully. So Zavik is with us, saying hello, Gav. So hi, Zavik. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. And a few more of you, and then I'll answer a couple of questions that have already been posted. So Nath Richo is saying that he's with us and hoping for a cold, wishing for a cold winter. So, yeah, I think a lot of people are hoping we're going to have a cold winter. I realise that a lot of people watching winter updates are hoping that it's all going to lead up to a cold winter. But it's very, very early days with these winter updates. Indeed, Mark Clifford is with us. Hi, Mark. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. And Adam Blunstead is with us as well, saying that it's an interesting winter update. Right, so I see we've already got a couple of questions in. So, by the way, what did you all think to the third winter 2019-2020 update? Ran for 1 hour 8 minutes. I think that is a new record. I think that's the longest winter update we've ever done. I tried to keep the winter updates to an hour. if possible. But this one, it overran because we had so much to talk about. We had to look at Siberian snow cover, which is unusual to look at that in depth this early in the season. That's normally something we focus on more specifically in October. For this early in the season, that's very, very unusual. I don't think I've had to go back through the archive at the NIC website. I don't think I've had to go through the archive of years this early in the season. So almost unprecedented, certainly back to 1998, which I think we proved when we went through those years, the increasing snow cover that we've had across Siberia. In fact, it's so early, I wouldn't be at all surprised if some of that was to mount, actually, over the next week or so. So don't be surprised if that diminishes a little bit, because it is very, very early in the season to have such an amount of snow cover that we saw there across Siberia. So having to do that meant that the update overran a little bit, but I hope you enjoyed the third winter 2019-2020 update anyway, and do let me know what you thought through the live chat. Twisted Weather is asking, it looks like a La Nina is forming quickly right now. I'm not sure, Twisted Weather, actually. In the winter update, yes, we did see that got those slightly colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies through the extra-Pacific, but actually the Southern Oscillation Index, which is an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, and this is explained in the winter update, so I won't have time to go into it in depth through this live chat because it's really quite complicated. But the SOI kind of represents or reflects what the atmospheric setup is doing in the Southern Ocean. We did see that the SOI has gone into a very negative phase, actually, over the past week or two. It's actually doing a bit of a plummet, and that would support more of a La Nina type setup, and more of an El Nino type setup, I should say, when you've got a negative SOI. So very, very complicated times in the Extra-Pacific Ocean. And I suspect we won't know what's going to happen with ENSO in this winter until we get towards sort of the final stages of the winter update. So for the analogues, the reanalysis, in terms of ENSO, I wouldn't expect to see that until sort of the last update or two, right at the very end of November. I think we'll have to leave it that long before we know exactly where this is going with ENSO. I've got a feeling it's going to be ENSO neutral, but certainly what is happening with the SOI at the moment is reflected of going into more of an El Nino type condition. Let's run down and have a look at one or two more. So Mark Kinish is with us. So hi, Mark. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. Mark is saying, hi Gavin, I'm listening. As always, a question to ask: if the Atlantic is in a warm state, can that help us get a cold winter in the UK and Europe? So it does appear that our colder winters tend to be associated with warmer Atlantic ocean temperatures. That is not to say that we can't get cold winters with a colder than average Atlantic sea surface temperature anomaly as well. So the Atlantic tends to move, similar to the Pacific, tends to move in sort of decadal timescales. We have the warm phase of the MAO, the Atlantic Multidecadal Oscillation, and the cold phase of the AMO. And these phases tend to run in blocks of around 20-25 years, something like that. We have been through the warm phase of the AMO. It started around 1995. We're still actually in that warm phase of the AMO, but it is drawing to a close quite rapidly now. The past few years where we've tended to have colder sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic. Although this year actually we've got quite a warm Atlantic, but that's a deviation compared to what we've seen over the past 3 or 4 years. Generally, the Atlantic has tended to be rather colder. That's an indication, but as we go into the 2020s, I think we're going to see the Atlantic flipping into the cold phase of the AMO, and then it will stay generally quite cold with the AMO going right the way through the 2020s, 2030s, possibly into the 2040s as well. There will be years that deviate, of course, within that. So some years we'll have warmer Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies. But generally we're in for quite a cold time in the Atlantic over the next 20 years or so, starting in around 2 or 3 years' time, I would have thought. But anyway, the last time we was in the cold phase of the AMO was around 1965 through to around 1995, so around 30 years. And within that period, there were cold winters, of course. We had several cold winters in the second half of 1960s. There was a run of cold winters starting in the late 1970s and going through to the middle of the 1980s. In between, a lot of mild winters as well. It may seem a little bit counterintuitive that you would be having a cold Atlantic, but you would have a mild winter. But remember, in the winter, westerlies are always going to be mild, generally, whether they are coming across a warmer than average Atlantic or a colder than average Atlantic. Generally, the west-southwesterly will be a mild wind direction compared to an east or northeasterly. There are exceptions to that, such as what happened in 1984, I think it was, where we had a very cold west-northwesterly coming out of Canada. That was very unusual. Generally, in the winter, westerlies will be milder than easterlies, even if the Atlantic is in a colder than average state. It's less true, of course, in the summer. So to answer your question, I think that the warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies definitely help us to get colder winter conditions, definitely help us get northern blocking when they're associated around Greenland in particular, and also through the tropical Atlantic. But we can, of course, still get colder than average winters even when we have a cold Atlantic. Right, let's have a look at one or two more. So we've got Twisted Weather saying Tropical Tidbit shows 3.4 heading down quickly, but now it's stalled. So yeah, it's very confusing what's going on with ENSO at the moment. And as I say, I think it will be late on in these winter updates before we're clear exactly what's going on with ENSO. I see we've got 62. It's now 63 people are watching us on this Sunday afternoon. So hello and thank you so much to all of you for tuning in. Please smash the like button. Let us know that you are enjoying the live stream on this Sunday afternoon. Please give us a thumbs up. Harvey Harbour is with us. So hi Harvey, thanks for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. Dagger is telling us that it was pouring with rain and really windy in Estonia today, so it sounds like autumn has definitely descended in Estonia. Summer is still hanging on here in the UK, but the temperatures will be getting cooler, I think, over the next day or two. Right, so let's see if we can have a look at one or two more, and I'll just scroll down through the chat. So remember, as I'm doing this, I'm scrolling down through your questions, so it is possible that some people's questions might get missed. If that happens, then I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to answer as many as I can. Lisa Cotton is with us, saying that Lisa's not a fan of heat, so would rather watch the stream. Okay, thanks Lisa, and thanks for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. It's amazing how many people don't like warm weather, actually hot weather. There is the idea that everybody sort of enjoys and loves very warm or hot conditions, but it's not the case at all. A lot of the people who watch the videos that we produce here, I know a lot of them don't like particularly warm weather. But thanks for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. Almost, I think we can say Sunday evening. As I say, so that's funny sort of time in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I think in the summer, 5 o'clock is afternoon, but when the clocks go back in October, I think then 5 o'clock will probably be evening. Soft Shallow is with us, so hi Soft Shallow, thanks so much for tuning in this afternoon, and we'll have a look at one or two more. So Streak 7777 is saying, how many beasts from the East Falls do you think we will see this winter? Well, it's possible we won't have any, Streak, so we need to get that on the table straight away. It is possible we won't get any cold weather this winter. There have been many winters in the past that have not produced any cold conditions whatsoever. So the starting point for our climate is always that we're prone to prevailing westerlies, southwesterlies. That's our predominant wind direction, and when we get these easterlies and northerly episodes, that is a deviation from the norm. So we are set up for mild winter weather just purely due to our place in the world. So Hopefully we'll get some Easterlies, but again, it can't be guaranteed. Now, I've got 72 people watching, so thank you so much to all of you for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. And don't forget to give us a like and let us know that you're enjoying this live stream. So we've also got JARIS993 in with us. So thanks for tuning in, JAR. And we've got Paul James with us as well, saying afternoon, gals. So thanks, Paul, for tuning in, and good afternoon. Hope you're having a lovely Sunday afternoon. We've also got Shiram asking, hello Yamin, do you think the SST sea surface temperature anomalies around Alaska will cool down more, as I am worried about cyclogenesis giving us a mild winter again like it did in 2013, 2014 as the jet stream blows up towards us. So we've got this big, massive area of warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies sitting in the northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean, something that we've seen quite a lot of over the past few years. It goes back, I think, to 2013-14. I think that's the first time we had it, and it's been a repeating thing that we've seen over the past few years. That probably is where the Pacific Decadal Oscillation has shifted into its warm phase, I would have thought, as indicative of the warm phase of the PDO. So anyway, with that, what tends to happen is that the jet stream aligns northwest to southeast across America, and that allows cold air to be pulled down into the northern and northeastern part of the states. As that cold air pulls out of the east coast of America, it hits the Atlantic, and then it can blow up the jet stream in terms of cyclogenesis. You get deep areas of low pressure then sweeping across the Atlantic into the UK and into northern Europe. That's very much a pattern that we had during that really, really wet and stormy winter of 2013-14. Now, I say a couple of caveats about that. And yes, it is possible that those sea surface temperature anomalies will cool down Shiram. So it's only September. We've got several months till we're into the winter, so it's possible by the time we get to winter they'll be cooled down. The other point, of course, is that 2013-14 is a solar maximum winter as well. So in any case, you wouldn't expect the jet stream to be as invigorated this winter as we're at solar minimum compared to that particular winter. It's all down to blocking. So if we was to get high pressure setting up over Greenland, even if we've got a very active jet stream coming out of America, that jet stream would be pushed southwards. So that's kind of like the thing that happened in the winter of 1978, 1979. We had lots of southerly tracking areas of low pressure on a southerly tracking jet stream, and we had that because we had blocking around Greenland. So, of course, if we was to have a southerly tracking jet stream with extensive blocking around Greenland, even if we did get cyclogenesis coming out of America, that would be providing either rain or possibly snow as those areas of low pressure track southwards. So I wouldn't be necessarily overly concerned about that warmer than average area of sea surface temperature anomalies in the northeastern Pacific. But it is something that we've had a lot of over the past few years. As I say, the first winter with that was 2013-14, and we've seen it a lot over recent years, and it's generally been associated with the milder winters that we've had since our last properly cold winter, which was 2012-2013. We've got VK24 with us saying hello, Gav. So hi, VK. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. Also, Toby Scott is with us saying great listen. So thank you, Toby, for tuning in, and please hear that you're enjoying the live stream. JAR is saying planning a new record on the fourth winter update. So hopefully not. Hopefully we won't. The fourth winter update won't run to an hour and 8 minutes and have 78 tabs. We never know. I never planned it out to break records or to have a particularly long update with loads and loads of tabs. It's just the way the update sort of takes on a life of its own organically, if you like. So we do it lasts as long as it needs to, if you like. So I try to bring it in under an hour, and that's definitely what I'll be hoping to do with the 4th Winter 2019-2020 update. Have 80 people watching. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon, and again, please give us a like and hit the or smash the like button and let us know that you are enjoying the live stream. Sane is with us, so hi Sane, thanks so much for tuning in this afternoon. Tom Dart is with us as well, so hi Tom, thank you for tuning in. And Chair Ward 44 is with us, so hi Chair, thanks for tuning in to our live stream. So Harvey Harbour says, last winter I got most of my snow in April across Western Wales. So, yeah, it's funny, but the spring can actually be snowier than the winter. That is something that happens quite a lot. I have to say, when we are in this country, because as you go through into the spring, of course, the westerlies, southwesterlies are weakening, and then you are more prone towards easterly and northerly wind direction, and those easterly and northerly wind directions can drive in colder conditions. So, as we always say, and it is true, it is more likely to snow at Easter than it is at Christmas, and that's just purely because as you get through to the spring, the westerlies, southwesterlies are weakening, and that allows other wind directions, sometimes southerly, of course, sometimes warm, but also sometimes easterly and northerly. VK24 is asking, is it true that October needs to be unsettled to have a cold winter? And what about November? I'm not sure. SY index affected by SSW, another record-breaking tabs. So about October, the general idea with this, and there's a lot of controversy about it. Do autumn weather patterns have any bearing on does it have any bearing on the season that follows, such as the winter? The general idea is that for a cold winter, you are looking for a rather cool and wet September. You are looking for quite a warm and dry October, and then you're looking for a wet November. That is the broad pattern through the autumn that gives you the most likely outcome of arriving at a cold winter. But of course, as ever, there are many deviations to that. So, for example, in 2009, we had a very, very dry September. And that was followed by a really cold winter as well. Also had a dry October, though, in 2009, so maybe it's October that's more important than September. And also had a very wet November. So we had 2 out of 3 in autumn 2009. We didn't have the cool, wet September. We had a warm, dry month, but we did have a dry October, and then we had a wet November. So there are various combinations that you can get with this, but overall, that's what you're looking for to have the best chance, anyway, of arriving at a colder winter. You're looking for a rather wettish and cool September. You're looking for a dry October. I don't think it matters so much with October whether it's warm or cool. You just want quite a dry October, and then you want it to flip in November and have a wet November. When you get that combination, then you increase the chance you increase the chance of something a little bit colder taking place through the winter that follows those patterns. But again, there's a lot of controversy about that. Some people would say that there is no connection at all between one season to another or 1 month to another, and the whole thing is very random. We do look at autumn weather patterns, obviously, when we're doing the winter updates. So, anyway, that's the combination that you're looking for. 82 people with us at the moment watching our live stream on this Sunday afternoon. And thanks so much to all of you for tuning in. Please smash the like button and let us know that you are enjoying the live stream. Dagger is asking, do other models support CFS idea going towards El Nino again? I'm not sure, actually, Dagger. I haven't looked at the other models yet. That's probably something that we'll focus on in a winter update. Maybe the next one, maybe one after that. Not sure. when we'll do that. But we will have a look at some other model output, probably ECM and also CFS, and see what they're showing for ENSO going forwards. Alpha SB is saying, hope the tripole returns this winter. So the idea behind using May sea surface temperature anomalies is that for doing the NEO forecast is that we can get to winter, those sea surface temperature anomalies should start to recur. So if the theory holds true, as we get towards the winter and go into the winter, we should see that the tripole begins to reform and begins to come back. If it does, then that would favour a more negative NAO type winter in as we forecast with that NAO forecast for winter of 2019-2020. Also, Chair Ward is asking any news on the SSW in the Southern Hemisphere and how it may impact our winter. So, not sure about that, Chair. I did talk about it for a few minutes in winter updates. Massive southern stratospheric warming is taking place over the South Pole. Whether that has any effects on our weather, I'm unsure. But I will be attempting to do some research about it, see if it could have any effects. It's quite unusual, I think, to get a southern stratospheric warming over the South Pole. I think 2002, I've seen a comment on Gazov's 2002 possibly have one. And also maybe 2009 or 2010, one of those 2 years, possibly have one, southern stratospheric warming over the South Pole. But I think it's quite unusual. So it could be that it doesn't happen frequently enough to be able to draw any sort of conclusions about what impact it might have up in the Northern Hemisphere. Perhaps it's something that happens too infrequently to be able to form any sort of observational idea about what could happen from it. But I will try and do a little bit of research over the next few days and see if we can come up with some possible effects of this southern stratospheric warming over the South Pole. George is asking, is it likely that from next weekend there will be low pressure? That's certainly where model output is going at the moment, George. So we may have a look at some at the GFS. That's just updating as we talk. So in a moment I might turn on the screen share and see what the latest GFS run is showing. Definitely the model output has been shifting over the past day or so towards more unsettled conditions for the last week of September. If you've been watching the videos, the daily weather videos, then you'll know that we have been saying that the final week of September is the one that could turn more unsettled, and that is definitely the way model output has moved. But I haven't seen the latest GFS run to be able to confirm that that is the case. 90 people are watching us on this Sunday afternoon. It's nearly 5:30. So thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. Don't forget to give us a like and let us know that you are enjoying the live chat that we're doing here this afternoon. I'm going to try and scroll down through the comments, but we are having a huge number of comments coming through this afternoon. So I'm sure I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's comments, I don't think, but I'll answer as many as I can. If I miss anybody out, then I'm sorry about that. But we are having a huge number of comments coming in this afternoon. Absolutely blown away by the response. So thank you so much to all of you for tuning in to our live stream. Katrine Baso is with us saying hello. So hi, Katrine. Thank you for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. We've also got a question again from BK. This decade we had unusual weather patterns. Can these unusual weather patterns make winter forecast difficult? And will you look at ACE for the hurricanes? Yes, ACE is something that we have looked at in the past for hurricane season. I'm not certain that we'll look at that for this particular series of winter updates, but definitely I think it's back in 2017 we looked at ACE, so that is definitely something that we will that we could be focusing on anyway through the course of these winter updates. And yeah, we have had some very, very strange patterns, and that weather patterns during this past few years, and that does make it a little bit more difficult to be able to come up with, not just for winter but for any sort of long range forecast. So yeah, it makes it a little bit more complicated, and particularly I've noticed, particularly in terms of ENSO, it does appear these days that ENSO is always very, very uncertain late on. Normally with ENSO, you have it kind of sorted out what you're going to get for the end of the year. You have it sorted out by around June or July normally, but over the past few years, it's tended to be the case that both El Niños and the La Nina that we had in 2017-18 were very, very late starters. Developing through the autumn, which historically is quite unusual for that to be the case. Adam Blunston is saying, Gaz, the scientist said it's going to be coldest winter for 30 years. Do you believe in that? So there's that forecast that was released, I think it was by University of London. They released a forecast around a week or so ago saying that they thought this winter could be a very, very cold winter. They were basing it on two aspects. They're basing it on sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic. Not sure whether that's the same thing that we look at Gaz Weather Things in terms of May sea surface temperature anomalies or something else, and also atmospheric patterns, possibly the negative NAO that we have been in over the past few months. But again, without knowing exactly what they are basing that on, it's very, very difficult to be able to comment on the forecast, really. So it's an interesting forecast. It's definitely from a more reliable source. UCL is a more reliable source than the normal headline coldest winter for 30 or whatnot years that we see in the papers and within media. It's from a more reliable source, so I would file it as interesting, potentially very interesting, but I can't comment on it myself because I don't know exactly what the things are that they are looking at. I know their sea surface temperature anomalies and atmospheric pressure patterns, but without knowing exactly what things they are judging this forecast against, it's very difficult for me to comment. But I would say it is from a more reliable source than the usual headlines that we see. Let's put it that way. So we've got Tio saying hi, Gav, from Greece. So we've got people listening to our live stream this afternoon internationally. Hi, Tio. Thanks so much for tuning in to our live stream over there in Greece. I hope weather is okay for you. Mike Spikey is saying can't stand hot weather. -10 is what Mike likes. So yeah, there's a lot of people that prefer cold over hot. Mike, definitely that is the case. Jacob Campbell is with us. Winter of 2018-19 was exceptionally mild. I prefer a cold one. Let's hope we'll get one. So yeah, last winter was pretty mild, Jacob. It did have a colder interlude during January, but overall it was a mild winter, particularly so in February. Had very, very mild, in warm conditions, you would say, in the second half of February, where we saw the temperature going up into the low 20s. So yeah, that was a mild winter, but of course, possible that this one will be very different. All years are unique into themselves. So just because I had a mild winter last winter doesn't mean that this one can't be cold. But again, do keep in mind that our setup is primarily focused on west-southwesterlies. That's our prevailing wind direction. And so if we have a cold winter, it would be a deviation from the norm. We've got Barry Wilkinson with us. This winter and next winter must be the best chance we have for cold. So, with a question mark. So, we know we're at solar minimum Barry, so that is kind of like loading the dice in favour of a colder outcome. We also know that think anyway that we're going to go into a transitioning. We're going to transition from a westerly to an easterly QBO. So yeah, there are a few things that are stacking up that possibly do favour the chance of a colder winter. But remember, because of where we are, our position in the world. We're favoured to have mild winters. West-southwesterly is our prevailing wind direction. So if we was to have a cold winter, it would be a deviation from our normal, regular, typical setup. So that's what makes it complicated for us to get a cold winter. And if it can go wrong, history has proven that if it can go wrong for a cold winter, it will go wrong. So it only takes one thing to go against us. Be that kind of like a big ramp up in El Nino or something like that, and then that would be curtains for a cold winter. It doesn't take much for where we are, just perched on the edges of Europe and next to the mighty Atlantic Ocean. It doesn't take much for things to go wrong in terms of a colder than average winter. Siren is with us. Gal, I won't give spoilers, but transitional west to east QBO I looked at is very interesting. So we've already spoken about that, actually. I've spoken about this to our Analogs Guru James, who gets all the analogs together for us. So we've already had a bit of a chat about those transitional west to east QBO winters. I'm not going to say anything about that either, because that's going to be something that will be showing up in a future winter update, but I suspect there will be a little bit of an interest with those transitional west to east QBO winters. And thanks so much for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon, Simon. We've still got 90 people listening to our live stream this afternoon, so thank you so much to all of you for tuning in. Don't forget to smash the like button and let us know that you are enjoying this this live stream. Jacob Campbell saying a repeat of winter of 2010 would be nice. So much snow. So 0910, yes, was very cold winter. Of course, we also had the December to remember in 2010, and that was a phenomenally cold month. Could we get a repeat of the December to remember? I know that's something that a lot of you are waiting for. So I'll have a look at one or two more if we can. And again, I'm trying to answer as many of these questions and comments as I can. But we've got so many coming in. It really is a job to keep up with the chat. So again, thank you so much for all of your interest and answering all of these comments and questions. Downstairs Dave is asking, I think with the amount of mild winters lately, the odds for a cold winter must be getting better. Surely you would think that, Dave, but does the weather have a memory? So I don't think that because we've had a lot of mild winters recently, that particularly favours this winter to turn colder. I think every season is unique into itself. So I would say, because of where we are in the world, where we are in terms of the Atlantic, we favour a milder than average winter every time. But if we get all of the things lined up that we need to get lined up to get a cold winter, then we can have a cold winter. But if you see what I mean, just because we've had like 3 mild winters doesn't mean that the 4th one is guaranteed to go cold. We could just have a 4th mild winter and a 5th and a 6th and a 7th and an 8th until we finally eventually get all of those things stacked up that we need to get stacked up in order to have a cold winter. Let's see if we can do one or two more. Dagger is saying winter 78-79 was the last time Estonia saw temperatures reaching -40. Wow, that's really, really cold, Dagger. Yeah, that was a very, very severe winter indeed. Barry Wilkinson saying trees are loaded with berries for the birds to get nice and fat on to survive a harsh winter. So again, that's something that people swear by in terms of forecasting. We look at things like the amount of berry numbers and that kind of thing. And that's not the way I do forecasting, but I think there's room for various methodologies and various ideas. So I always find that sort of thing fascinating. El Rai, we want snowgabbing, don't want to hear anything else. So yeah, I know, El, that a lot of people are waiting for a cold winter. And if I can forecast it, I will do, but I can't go in with preconceived ideas. I can't go into it just trying to give people what they want here. With Gazovich, you get the truth as we see it, and I think people respect us for that, but we call it as we see it. We don't favour any particular outcome, even though I know a lot of the audience are sort of rooting for a cold winter. I'll call it as I see it, and if I don't see a cold winter, then I won't forecast a cold winter, but I know a lot of you are waiting. Are waiting for that. Let's see if we can scroll down to the chat. So Soft Shallow is saying, I always remember February 1987, even though snow lasted on the ground only 4 or so days in commentary, it was near to my knees. Then again, I was about 14. So yeah, that was a really big freeze up in January. It's actually January 1987. That was a real beast for the east when we had maximum temperatures. Some parts of eastern Britain probably no more than around -7. All day. It's probably the single coldest spell that we have had in this country since 1740. Those days around the middle part of January 1987, that was really, really severe. So we've had a super chat. Will Levine has given us a super chat. Remember, the idea of super chat is that your question will stand out, so it's easier for me to see it. You don't have to super chat, of course, but if you want a definite response, then that's the way to do it. Super chat, and your question will stand out, and then I'll be able to see it. Otherwise, I'm just scrolling down through the chat as we're speaking, and I may miss your question. I can't answer everybody's question, particularly when it's very, very busy, as is at the moment. I've got 94 people still watching us. We started this 40 minutes ago, so a big, big thank you to all of you for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon. So Will is saying, keep up the good work, Gav, and what do you think about the Scandinavian snow cover? So thanks, Will. Thanks so much for your super chat, and thanks for the kind comments. In terms of snow cover, well, for Scandinavia, we haven't really got a great deal of snow cover at the moment. We'll be waiting a little bit later on into the season for that to appear. Probably we'll be looking out for that more in October, I would have thought. We have got quite an unusual amount of snow cover, though, across central parts of Siberia, which is very unusual, as we established within the winter update. That is very, very unusual indeed for this early in the season. So the reason, or one of the reasons anyway, that the third winter update was so long, was delayed, is because I had to go through all of those past years to establish how unusual the snow cover was that we have over Siberia at the moment. And we established that it is very, very unusual. The only year that was probably kind of comparative was 2006. But I think we even beat 2006, really, for Siberian snow cover. So very, very unusual times in terms of what's happening with snow cover over Siberia. And as I said at the start of this live stream, I wouldn't be all that surprised, actually, if some of that snow cover was to actually melt in the next few days. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that declining a little bit, because it's very unusual to have that much snow cover across Siberia this early in the season. It's primarily October that we focus on, both for Scandinavian and also for Siberian snow cover, to see how quickly we advance that snow line across Russia. If we advance it very quickly across Russia and build it up early across Scandinavia, it can be associated with an enhanced Siberian high. An enhanced Siberian high, though, does not guarantee that we're going to get a cold winter. We now have 95 people watching us, so a big thank you. Can get this to 100 people watching this afternoon. That would be really, really cool if we could. And big thank you, Will, for your super chat and for your question, and for watching this live stream this afternoon. Paul James is saying 1981-1982 was an excellent winter for snow, even in London where I grew up. So yeah, that was a really cold winter, 81-82. It was quite as cold as the December to remember. It wasn't quite as cold as December 2010, but it was pretty severe, and there was a lot of snow around. And then it thawed out a little bit over Christmas and New Year, and then the cold came roaring back in January of 1982 with another really severe spell of bitter cold and snowy weather as well. But it had a mild February though, so when the cold went in the second half of January 1982, it went and it didn't come back. So we've got Alfie's Weather Channel with us. Do you think it will be a cooler winter? So, Alfie, it's too early to be able to give you a prediction or a forecast for this winter. And I suspect I'm going to be saying this every week over the next few weeks. It's too early to give you a prediction or a forecast. The way we do the forecast at Gazworth is that we like to build up the picture forensically, build up the evidence, and then see where the evidence leads us. So with very early on in these winter updates, we can already see that a few things are pointing us towards a colder winter outcome. We've got the NAO forecast that we did back in the summer. We know we're at solar minimum. We think very likely we're going to transition from a westerly to an easterly QPO. So all of these things, all of these things should help us increase the possibility of a colder winter. But again, it's far too early to be giving forecasts or predictions. So all I say, Alfie, is just stick with the winter updates, watch your space, and we'll see where things are leading us. Paul Miller is asking any views on Professor Saunders' cold winter coming up. So, Paul, we talked about that a few minutes ago, but I'll go over it again. I suspect people are joining in with the chat, and they didn't hear what I said about that. So we have the forecast from UCL, I think it was around a week ago. They're forecasting a cold winter. They say it could be the coldest winter for 30 years, or that's certainly what the newspaper headline said. The media hype about that said it could be the coldest winter for 30 years. And again, I say it's an interesting forecast, but I don't know the things that they are looking at. I know what they're looking at is atmospheric pressures and also sea surface temperature anomalies. I assume the sea surface temperature anomalies are in the Atlantic. The atmospheric pressure is probably something to do with the Arctic or North Atlantic oscillation. But again, without knowing exactly what the methodology is, it is very difficult for me to be able to give a comment on that forecast. So I just file it as interesting or very interesting. It's from a more reliable source. Obviously, compared to where a lot of the newspaper headlines that we see come from. So it should be a more reliable forecast because it's coming from a more reliable source. But I can't really say what it is that they are, what it is that they're looking at to be able to come up with that forecast. Downstairs Dave saying, on my 16th birthday, October 20th, 1978, the temperature nearly reached 80 Fahrenheit, and winter of 78, 79 was the best winter in memory. Classic blizzard in the south. So yeah, that was a dry and warm autumn in 1978. So September was very dry in 78. October was very dry as well. Most of November was dry too. Generally, temperatures were above average until the last week of November, and then we got our first shot of northerly winds. Wasn't sustained all that long, but that first shot of northerly winds in the final week of November 1978, that was sort of setting up the pattern, I suppose, for what was going to come later on in that really cold winter of 1978-1979, the famous winter of discontent. Henry W. is with us saying, hello Gavin, remarkably I haven't caught a stream for months, glad to be here. Well, we're glad to have you here, Henry. Thanks so much for tuning in on this sunny afternoon. Actually, this is only the third live stream that we've done on a sunny afternoon with the winter update. So, I mean, you've missed the last two, but before that you haven't really missed a lot. I did one or two late night streams just setting up the Streamlabs software, but they weren't publicised at all. So other than the last two updates, you haven't missed all that much, I have to say. But thanks so much for tuning in this afternoon. 95 people are still with us with this live stream, so thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in and sticking with the live stream. I hope you've enjoyed it. and I hope you found it interesting and informative. Mike Rawcliffe is with us saying, hi Gav, loving winter updates. So thanks Mike, thanks for the lovely kind comments. We've got 99 people watching us now. Can we tip that over to 100 people watching? That would be really, really good if we could tip it over to 100. But back to Mike, thank you so much for your comment, Mike. And I know a lot of people do primarily enjoy the winter updates. I know that's the focus for a lot of people, the long range stuff that we do for the winter, and we're happy to do it as long as people want to watch it. We are happy to do these long winter updates. They're very, very tiring for me, recording for like an hour on a Saturday evening, and then I have to go through the processing and the uploading. So the whole thing, then getting all the charts loaded up before I record. So the whole thing sort of takes around 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours from beginning to end. So it's very tiring for me, but I know that so many of you enjoy it, and as long as people want to see these winter updates, we're happy to do them. Paul Stanya is asking, hi Gav, are you and Quantum planning anything this winter? I haven't spoken to Quantum about it, but it's possible that we might do. Nothing is planned, but yeah, there's absolutely no reason why we won't, so just watch this space on that, Paul. Let's have a look at one or two more. So many questions coming in today. Thank you so much for all of your questions and comments, and for just sticking with this live stream. Absolutely blown away. As I say, when I announced that we're going to do these live streams on a Sunday afternoon with winter updates, I didn't know how much interest there would be. I didn't know whether anybody would be particularly interested in it, whether we would have much of a response. But the response has been absolutely phenomenal, just totally blown away. And again, thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in. We're going to have to wrap this up at 6 o'clock because I'm going to have to go off and write up a written version of the third winter 2019-2020 update. I have to get that up for you this evening. For anybody that couldn't watch a video, they need to have a written version to be able to keep up with what we're talking about in the winter update. So I have to get that done after 6, but it's only got another 10 minutes or so to go through some more of your comments. Again, let's see if I can find one or two more. There's a lot of comments going on in So in the chat. So Siren is saying, Gav, the University College London forecast is based on solar activity. Interesting, solar flux. And April, May, June, 50 HPA QBO. So thanks for confirming that, Siren. I wasn't sure what the forecast was being based upon. So again, all I can say about that is that it is a very interesting forecast. It's from a more reliable source. You know, it's not from the usual suspects who are always, seem to be always in the papers forecasting the coldest winter for 200 years, and in summer forecasting the hottest summer that we've ever had. It's not from that range of forecasters, if you can call them forecasters. It's from a more reliable source. So it's very, very interesting, and I can say no more than that. It's not really for me to comment on their forecast, but definitely, I mean, University College London are going to know what they're talking about, I would have thought. So it's definitely from a very, very interesting source indeed. Weather is Cool is with us. Hi, I'm new, just found your channel, so thanks for tuning in to our live stream. Weather is Cool. We actually use a website, Weather is Cool, in the winter updates as well, so that's interesting. We've also got Shahad Hussain saying this winter January will be the coldest month, then next winter will be chillier. So there we are. I've got a forecast from Shahid there, telling us that he thinks that January will be the coldest month of this winter, but watch out for the winter of 2020-2021. Paul Miller asking, are you still thinking a cold November could happen, as you mentioned in the autumn forecast? So, yeah, the autumn forecast was interesting. We was thinking that September and October likely to be quite anticyclonic, likely to have a lot of high pressure influences, and then we thought that we get to November and something different could happen, but we was unsure what that something different would be. So that could either be that we go quite wet and unsettled and stormy, perhaps flipping from high pressure domination to low pressure, or it could be that we go colder, and we didn't really give a view either way what we thought was the most likely. My guess is that we probably go to more low pressure, so not particularly cold, but just a lot more unsettled. But I certainly wouldn't rule out the chance of November doing something quite cold. We'll have to wait and see. iTech Talk asking Gav, are we going to see a cold winter, or will it be similar to what we got last year? So it's too early to say. iTech, at this stage, we're very early in winter updates. We are only 3 updates in. We know that quite a few of the things that we look at the moment are pointing us in the direction of a colder winter, but it's really too early to say. But we're going to have a cold winter to be able to give you a forecast. We have been talking for 55 minutes and we've still got 97 people watching us. So this is by far the biggest response that we've had to our live streams. It's only the third one that we've done, though, of course, on a Sunday afternoon. But every week we seem to be getting a bigger audience. So hopefully this is going to grow and get more popular as we go through the autumn. But a big thank you to all of you for watching us on this Sunday afternoon. Please smash your like button and let us know that you have enjoyed this live stream. As I say, I'm going to have to wrap this up around 6 o'clock. I'm going to go off and write up the written version of the winter 2019-2020 update. So around 5 minutes or so, and we're going to have to call it a day. I don't think I'm going to have time to screen share with you, unfortunately, again this afternoon. So maybe we'll have to do a live stream just looking at charts or something. That might be quite interesting. I thought maybe we could do an ensemble. We get to winter, maybe we could do an ensembles watch live. That could be quite interesting when we get to the winter. But again, just so many comments, so many questions to go through that I just haven't had time to go on to the charts. TA is asking, hi Gav, any chance you could do a retrospective on the first 20 of the millennium, i.e. remarkable, unusual months and weather? So I'm not sure what you're asking there, TA. Are you asking for the first months of this decade, of this millennium, since the year 2000? I'm not sure what you're asking. If you could clarify what you're asking there, and then I'll be able to give you a better response. That Michael Douglas with us asking how I am. So I'm okay, Michael. A bit tired after doing that 1 hour 8-minute winter update last night. But yeah, I'm fine, thanks, and thanks so much for tuning in, and hope you're okay too, my friend. We've got Callum Tor asking, what has been the hottest summers of the decade? Has it been 2013, 2014, 2018? That is what I remember. So 2018, I think, is the hottest summer of the decade by some way. I also had a hot summer in 2013, of course, that was hot July. We also, 2014 was a bit mixed. It was pretty hot in July, and then it rather cooler in August, I seem to remember. But the only real classic hot summer that we've had is last summer, 2018. That was the real classic hot summer of this decade. Sean Donahue is asking, hey Gav from rainy Dublin, why did the models perform so badly last winter? I think you're talking about the long range models, Sean, maybe, or possibly the short range models. So any long range forecast, of course, is going to come with a huge health warning. The atmosphere is dynamic, and when you're looking at forecast model output beyond sort of 10 days or so, then you're going to have a big health warning with any model output, and particularly when you're talking about long range season models. Of course, leading up to last winter, interestingly, a lot of the long-range models were associating the chance of northern blocking, forecasting the chance of northern blocking through winter of 2018, 2019. And interestingly, we did actually get quite a lot of northern blocking through last winter, so they weren't wrong on that idea. The forecast that there would be high pressure blocking over the North Pole and over the Arctic was correct. What they didn't pick up on was the mid-latitude pattern through the Atlantic and Europe. So we had this unusual combination last winter of a negative Arctic oscillation with lots of blocking over the pole, but we also had a positive NAO type pattern with high pressure from the Azores into Spain and just bring up a lot of southerly southwest winds. So it was a very unusual pattern that we had last winter, and the idea from the long range models that there would be northern blocking wasn't necessarily wrong. They just didn't factor in what would be going on through the Atlantic and into Europe as well, of course. We've got so many comments to get through, and I'm not going to be able to go through all of these, so really sorry about that. I'm going to have to wrap up the stream very shortly. Again, it's just been such a phenomenal response. I'll see if I can pick out just one or two more that have been posted over the last 10 minutes or so. We've got Kiri Owen asking, hi Gav, do you think a Maunder minimum, a Maunder minimum even, is on the cards? So, not sure about Maunder. There is a possibility we might, with Solar Cycle 25, drop down to Dalton minimum levels. That's the kind of level of solar activity we had during the early part of the 1800s, during solar cycles 5 and 6. We might drop down to a Dalton minimum level. I don't think there's any evidence, particularly of a Maunder minimum, but I could be wrong about that. John Williams is asking, could we gain snow over Siberia? So because we've had a very unusual early increase of snow over Siberia, John, it's possible that we might actually see that receding back a little bit over next week. When we look at that in next week's winter update, don't be overly surprised if we see that's receded back a bit. It's had a little bit of melting. Because that was a really early increase in snow cover that we had across central Siberia that we talked about in the third winter update. So it's possible that we might see that dropping back. Of course, over the next sort of few weeks, we will see snow cover increasing quickly across Siberia and also probably over Scandinavia as well. Mysterious Person, guys, it is still early to make predictions about winter, especially while our atmosphere is unstable. So, yeah, that's what I've been trying to get across, Mysterious. It's people asking me, is it going to be a cold winter? It's too early to be able to give a forecast. That's why we're doing the winter updates, to be able to build up that picture forensically. Paul Miller is asking, any chance of a white Christmas, Gav? So again, that's far too early to be able to give a forecast for Paul. What I would say is, though, is that on gazworthies.com, my website, Christmas written forecast will be starting on the first Sunday of October. I think that's the 6th of October. We'll be doing a written sort of update, if you like, for Christmas, and we'll do one of those every week through the Sundays in October. And then from the 1st of November, the video countdown for Christmas will begin. So that's something that people either love or they don't like very much. I'm aware of that through the comments. But I enjoy doing the Christmas countdown, and I enjoy starting it on the 1st of November. So on the 1st of November, the Christmas video countdown will begin. Right, I think that's about as much as I've got time for. I'll just carry on down through the chat and see if there's any more comments. So David is saying PDO index is currently positive. Could it turn out to be negative during next winter? So yeah, this is associated with those warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies that we're talking about in the Northern Pacific. I think we've gone into the warm phase of the PDO. So generally over the next few years, next couple of decades, the PDO will probably be favouring warm conditions. So we'll probably have quite a lot of these warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies in the Pacific. But we will have individual years that deviate, but do something different. We had that in 2017, 2018, for example, when a bit colder with the PDO. So certainly not impossible that this winter could see that the PDO goes into a more negative phase. But at the moment, definitely favouring warmer than average conditions. And I think that really is it. I think we're pretty much out of time. So Chairwood is saying Merry Christmas, Gav. So thank you, Chair. That's the first Merry Christmas that I've had this year. Not bad on the 15th of September. And yeah, so that's it. I think that's as much as we've got time for. Thanks so much to all of you for tuning in. Even now, we've got 76 people watching. So, again, big thank you to all of you for sticking with it. And I hope that you have all enjoyed this live stream that we've done this afternoon. There'll be another live stream, of course, next Sunday to go with the 4th Winter 2019-2020 update. That update, as well as all of the other things, I think is going to be looking at summer to winter data. So we'll be looking at things like the temperature and also precipitation from the summer of 2019, and we'll be looking at past summers that had a similar temperature and precipitation to this summer, and what winters were like that followed them. So I think that's what we'll be focusing on in the 4th Winter 2019-2020 update. Sorry to all of you that asked questions and made comments, and I didn't get through the chat quick enough. As I say, I'm going through the chat as quickly as I can, but when we have such a phenomenal response as we're having to these live streams, it's impossible to be able to answer everybody's questions and comments. So if for anybody that missed out, then please ask your question or comment again next week, and I'll endeavour to answer it then. But we've overrun a little bit with this as well. At 1 hour, 5 minutes, that's it. It's time to wrap up the live stream. So thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Bye for now.